beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today I want to talk about some of my favorite cool toned eyeshadow palettes. Cool tones have really been having a moment. I would say going on 2 years now, there's really been a big shift. After many years of the trend overall in the makeup world being more towards warm tones, especially warm tone neutrals, those orangey browns. We all probably have 1.5 million of those shades. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with them. I love a good warm tone, but I will say I have been one of those on the cool toned bandwagon. I think cool tones are very flattering on a lot of people. I have a very neutral undertone to my complexion. So I feel like I'm one of those lucky folks that can get away with either one. But I am a self-confessed cool toned girly. So I want to share some of my favorite cool toned palettes with you. Certainly in these palettes, there are going to be shades that aren't technically cool toned. I'm just going for an overall feeling, an overall vibe, the type of palette that could give you several different cool tone eyeshadow options. But there will be some in here that maybe are up for debate, and that's okay. If we disagree on that, if you disagree with some of these choices, fair enough. But these are the palettes that I'm reaching for when I am hankering for a cool toned look. I want to share a lot of different options, different brands, different price points, even different types of color selection. I don't want to give you 10 gray palettes in a row. So hopefully there will be a little something for everybody in here. So let's get to the fun part and check out some of my favorite cool tone eyeshadow palettes. We have 10 cool tone palettes to talk about today, and I'm sorry, I know my voice doesn't sound great. I've been traveling for a while and I don't feel ill or anything. It's just one of those things. You know, you go on enough airplanes, you're gonna sound like this. But not to worry, I'm not ill. I'm fine. I'm just losing my voice. Anyway, I have more in-depth videos with all of these palettes with at least a tutorial. The majority of these will have dedicated reviews with comparisons and all that other good stuff. I also might have affiliate codes or coupon codes for some of these. So if you actually see something you're interested in trying, make sure you check the description box for more information about these palettes, and possibly you could save a couple bucks in the process, which is never a bad thing. We're going to start with the ColourPop palettes first. Of course, a big chunk of my favorites come from ColourPop. I double checked right before recording this, and all three of these palettes are currently in stock at the time I'm filming. So hopefully that's a good sign that these are going to be around for a while. First up, we have the Troublemaker palette. This is a 10-pan palette, and it's $18 before you use any coupons. This is definitely one of my all-time favorite ColourPop palettes, which if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that's saying something since I have literally tried all of them. Troublemaker consistently stands out, not only because I like all of the individual elements, I like the colors, the texture, formula, the packaging, all of that, but it's always on the top of my mind because I do reach for it so consistently. I focus on intense short term testing for the things I'm reviewing. I use things for at least a month solidly so that I can get a real feel for what I'm reviewing in that month. But there are always times when I just want to reach for an old, reliable friend of a palette. And the Troublemaker palette is that friend to me a lot of the time. Plus, this silver shade here in the middle called Villain Era is so smooth and gorgeous. I love a bright silver, and I am just consistently drawn to the Troublemaker palette. The first Twilight palette is one that I was concerned about being available since I know this collection sold out insanely fast. But I'm happy to report that it is showing up on the ColourPop site for me right now. This one is a 15 pan palette and it's 24 US dollars. You can still use coupon codes on this one as long as you get individual items, but you can't use those for any of the sets. And I know the sets for these special collections can be quite appealing. So make sure you weigh that in your mind if you're thinking about purchasing. I did mention in my review for this Twilight collection that I am a fan of the movies. So I know I'm going into these products with some bias, but I think that even if I wasn't a Twilight fan, I would still appreciate some of the same things about this palette. First of all, the outer packaging with like the mist and the trees, that foggy, misty tree line is some of my favorite packaging they have ever done. And in my opinion, anyway, this is one of the most interesting color stories that ColourPop as a whole has released in the past few years. Despite the fact that I think this palette is one of the more interesting and unique that they've done in a while, I still think that this color story is super useful and approachable for a lot of people. There are a lot of neutral and very soft, wispy shades on that top row, and even the blues and greens in here have a more dusty, desaturated quality that make them feel more neutral and make them pair easily with a lot of neutrals as a soft pop of color. It's not going to give you a really bright, bold, sure, with that bright green shimmer in the middle there, maybe so, but even the matte shades in here that are blues and greens just feel more neutral to me. Now, of course, I could live without the glittery ones in here, but the fact that this palette has two of those glitter shades and it's still in my top 10 cool tone palettes is a testament to how good this Twilight palette is truly in my eyes. Lastly, for the ColourPop palettes, we have my favorite mega palette. Of course, we're talking about the Stone Cold Fox palette. This is 30 pans and it goes for 35 bucks. This palette has the distinct honor of being one of the very few that I have actually replaced in my collection because I've been using it so much for so many years. I do have a lot of older palettes that I keep on hand for comparisons, but because I'm not really using them on my eyes much, if at all, I don't worry about getting a fresher, cleaner set of shadows after a few years. But much like Troublemaker, Stone Cold Fox is one that I do like to actually use a lot. It's great for traveling because it has every type of neutral that I want. And it's really one that I grab for off camera looks when I just want a couple of neutrals just to slap on the eye or maybe to wear in conjunction with like a special shimmery shade. I pair this a lot with my Cleona singles, with my Super Shock shadows. So this is just a great all around workhorse type of palette. Also, much like Troublemaker, Stone Cold Fox has this amazing bright silver shadow that I love called Magnetic Moon. I am a sucker for a bright metallic silver. So you're going to see a lot of those types of shades popping up in the palettes in today's video. I get asked a lot what my favorite mega palette is from ColourPop. This is always my answer. I do also like Bare Necessities, which is the warmer sister to this palette, but I just reach for this one more. I feel like it has the exact right balance of shades, tones, everything that I'm looking for. So Stone Cold Fox all the way. Now we're going to stick with a couple of larger palettes, but this time we're going to move into some indie brands. First up is the Ghost Town USA palette from Nomad Cosmetics. This one is also currently in stock. It's got 18 shades. It goes for $49. And just like the ColourPop code, I have the same code for this one. It's just my first name, Amanda. I try to make that my code for everything, basically, so that it's easy for me to remember. Now, this Ghost Town USA palette is not only one of my favorite cool tone palettes, it's not only one of my favorite all around Nomad palettes. I would easily say this is one of my favorite palettes of all time. I truly just love the balance. We have an exactly even split of mattes and shimmers, which I adore. We have a mix of some warmer and some cooler tones, some nice desaturated colors. We've got a balance of neutral shades and colorful shades. I do feel like I can just get everything I want from this Ghost Town USA palette. And it doesn't hurt that we have a bunch of my personal favorite colors in here. I love a dusty matte mauve, a bright shimmery silver, purple, and green, which are my go-to favorite colorful shades for eyeshadow. And there's this cool, spooky twist on the packaging. We have the silky, blendable formulas that I've come to rely on from Nomad Cosmetics. And I am intentionally not ranking these palettes today because I think that would be just unnecessarily difficult. I would overthink it. And really, a top 10 is great. I hope this is helpful regardless. So I am not ranking these, but if I was, I know that Ghost Town USA would be towards the top of my ranking for sure. Now, another larger palette that I really recommend is the Longing palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This one has 24 shades and it's priced at $42. However, this palette is currently sold out. It's available on a couple of different sites besides just the Blend Bunny actual site. I did see it pop up on Camera Ready Cosmetics and I think another retailer. It is sold out, but it's marked as coming soon. So hopefully this will be restocked soon. I really enjoy the richness of the pigmentation in the Blend Bunny shadows. They are incredibly intense, but also really surprisingly easy to blend and work with despite the intensity of that pigment. I really enjoy working with this palette. And my one complaint with the Longing palette is I wish there were a few more shimmery shades in here. There are 6 shimmer shadows in the Longing palette, and all 6 are absolutely stunning. I love the ones that are in here. I wish there were a couple more choices for me. I am somebody that loves a really all over shimmer, really metallic lid look. So I do find myself pairing this palette often with another one we're going to see pop up in just a minute here. The Amy Loves palette has a lot of great shimmers and needs more matte. So, in my opinion, Longing and Amy Loves go really, really well together. If you're somebody like me that does just hope for a couple more shimmery options in your palettes. But the Longing palette is absolutely stunning. If you have the opportunity and the desire to pick it up when it restocks, I highly, highly recommend it. Now we're going to talk about 2 indie collab palettes. Of course, I was just mentioning the Amy Loves palette from Adept Cosmetics. This palette has 15 eyeshadows and it's priced at 69 US dollars. Oh, just look at this sparkling packaging. I could watch these glitters glisten all day. I have to show it to you with a little bit of a flash just so that you can get an appreciation for these shimmery little glitters. Okay. Alas, we must move along. And just to be fully transparent, for those of you who don't know, Amy is my real life friend. She is an offline, not affiliated with work YouTube, but just real life friend of mine. So that will make me a lot more likely to want to be excited about this palette. But if you've ever touched Adept shadows, then you know that that hardly even matters because their formulations, their packaging, everything that they make is so incredibly luxurious, in my opinion. As I mentioned previously, I really like to use this Amy Loves palette in conjunction with the Blend Bunny Longing palette that I just showed before this one. The Amy Loves palette has the most stunning shimmers, and I am really glad that we get so many of them in here. But I do find myself wanting to switch up the mattes a little bit to create different looks. So, if you happen to have both of these palettes in your collection, I highly recommend using them together to expand the types of looks that you can achieve. Plus, at least for me, it's just really fun to mix and match and create new color combos. Combining palettes always inspires me. That's why you see me do palette mashups, palette bingos, things like that. It is something that keeps me excited. about what I already own. And it's a great way for older, quote unquote, older products to feel fresh and new and exciting again. The other collaboration palette in today's video is Realm of Fairies. This one is from Bella Beauté Bar in collaboration with Sassy Fairy over on Instagram. This is the most expensive palette in this video, and I bought mine myself, so I know that $72 for a single eyeshadow palette is pricey. Personally, I'm satisfied with my purchase, but I recognize that you do need a pretty significant budget to drop over $70 on one eyeshadow palette. So I don't really want to be dismissive of that. I have to say, this packaging is some of my favorite. Of course, we have the glorious sparkly packaging to stare at. This time it's more of like a scattered hollow effect vibe. But I really love the fact that this is all magnetic and that the shadow pans have that little notch. So the pans are super easy to remove, swap around, replace. You could even use this palette for travel with a whole different color story if you wanted to. One thing that Realm of Fairies does extremely well is contrast. I love these really soft, sparkly little shimmers paired with the deeper, richer mattes. Even though this seems like a really simple combo, the resulting looks are very magical, in my opinion. Something about this just really appeals to me, and I've enjoyed this little Realm of Fairies collab palette quite a bit. Lastly, we have our three smaller indie palettes. We're going to start with the Frozen Kiss palette from Gourmand Girls. This is really the most colorful of the eyeshadow palettes that I'm showing you today. Frozen Kiss obviously was a more seasonal release for winter. However, it is still available on the Gourmand Girls website. This has 14 eyeshadow shades and it's priced at just around 55 US dollars. One thing I love about Gourmand Girls palettes is they always have a lot of these really cute little imprints in the eyeshadows. I know that's a little detail. We also see that a lot with Nomad palettes. It's just something that I find very appealing and interesting, a nice little extra. So I love little snowflakes, hearts, stars. Definitely very seasonal, but I can see this being a beautiful palette for spring, really anytime, because it has these colorful, soft pastels mixed in with a few really rich, more jewel tone type of pops, and a small handful of neutral shades as a supporting cast. This one has great balance. I think that a lot of people will respond to not only this color story, but the formulas in the Gourmand Girls palettes are extremely user friendly. Next up, we have the Jewels and Gem palette from Odins Eye. This palette is currently sold out on the Odins Eye site, but I am hoping that they'll restock this one. I think this is an absolute steal. There are 15 eyeshadow shades in here for under 36 US dollars. Of course, it's no secret. I absolutely love Odins Eye as a brand. I did do a collaboration with them myself. So, you can look at that two ways. Either I am biased towards the brand because I did a collaboration, or I did a collaboration with them because I really, really love the brand. Personally, I like to think I'm in the second camp, but maybe it's a little bit of each. I'm all about transparency here. I love Odin's Eye packaging. I love their formulas. They make some of my all around favorite matte eyeshadows on the market. And this palette has such a beautiful balance. If you know me, you know that I love an even split between mattes and shimmers. This palette is really designed specifically to that ratio. We've got some murky, desaturated type of shades. We've got some dusty neutrals, some jewel tones, super, super bright metallic shimmers. I will never have my feelings hurt by a duochrome, by an olive green, or a bright purple. There are just all of my favorite types of shades in here, and I have never regretted picking up this palette. Every single look I've done, I've enjoyed, and I've felt both creative, inspired, and also like myself and true to my own aesthetic. So can't really get much better than that. Last, but certainly not least, the smallest palette featured in today's video also comes from a brand that has a special place in my heart, has been my honor to collaborate with Fantasy Cosmetica. Although I can't take any credit for this Rogue palette, this is one of my favorite cool tone palettes. I have a hard time saying what are my favorite Fantasy Cosmetica palettes because I do genuinely just love what this brand does so much. But the Rogue palette is currently available on the Fantasy Cosmetica site. At the time that I'm filming this, they're having a little bit of a palette sale, but the regular retail price for their 9-pan palettes is $38.99. However, if you see this video the day that I post it, they are having a little bit of a palette sale, so I would definitely recommend going to check out Fantasy Cosmetica truly anytime. This Rogue palette is another one of the bunch that is mostly colorful shades. Really, I think only the matte black could be classified as a neutral here. Maybe an argument could be made for some of these shimmers, but in general, this is a nice desaturated yet colorful palette. All of the shades in here work really beautifully together. No surprise that there are a lot of beautiful purples and greens, which I've already mentioned are my favorite colors to wear on my eyes. And it's also worth mentioning that another one of my favorite features applies to the Fantasy Cosmetica palettes as well. These shadows are magnetic and you can swap them around. I actually have done a couple of videos doing that with my Fantasy Cosmetica shadows. So just make sure you check the description box and you'll be able to check some of those out and some more information about all these palettes. Even if you're not in the market for a new eyeshadow palette right now, this isn't a help you decide what to buy type of guide. Maybe this is more of just a help you remember what you already have. Maybe go back into the archives and pull out one of these palettes if you haven't used it in a while. I really love to do that. I love to rediscover things that I haven't touched in a few months, maybe even haven't touched in more than a year. Maybe this helps you add something to your wish list that you can wait for a good sale. Maybe a good deal pops up. Or maybe none of the above. Hopefully you just had fun hanging out with me because I know I had fun making this video for you. I would love to hear what your favorite cool tone palettes are. Do we have any of the same favorites? Maybe there's something that you think I need to try next. I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Hey, I don't know if any of that made sense. We'll find out. I have a very chocolatey lip combo on today. This shade's called Half Baked Cookies. This one's Chocolate Milkshake. This combo is very yummy. Very, very yummy. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. The casually sweaty cheek. We're moving into business casually sweaty at this point. We may even be borderline formally sweaty. I really went for the glow today. So what can I say? I'm bringing back the 2010s glazed donut look. That's just where we're at. My aesthetic this spring is glazed donut has a Moss Girl summer. I love that for me. Cool. Can you focus? Okay. Cut. Take two. You don't make sense. Sometimes you have to pep talk yourself in the mirror, and sometimes you have to yell at yourself in the mirror. Sometimes those are the same thing. What? I love this little murky eyeshadow combo. I have shadows from these two palettes on. So from the Jewels and Gem palette, I have this shade just really lightly on the crease. And then this one smudged all around the lash line. So Seventh Heaven in the crease, Intoxication all around my lash line as like faux smudgy liner. And then from Enchanted Autumn, I have Scorpio, this one, just all packed all over my lids. Then a little tiny bit of Luna right on the inner corners. That's it. And I love this look. Okay, I'm embracing my Moss Girl aesthetic. No one could stop me. Okay, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you have a lovely day. And not only are these palettes tones cool, you're cool too. That was really a stretch. I apologize for my mom jokes, but that's what I'm working with right now. Okay, sorry about that. Love your face. Bye.